Does everyone know the words for Jai Radha Madhava? Yes. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Adi Madhava Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Adi Radha Madhava Kunjabeha Gopi Jana Balabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Balabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Balabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Balabha Girivardhari Jasodanandana Brajajanarandana Brajajan Jasodanandana Brajajanarandana Jamuna Tiravanam Chadi Jamuna Tiravanam Chadi Nata Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hadi Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hadi Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hadi Madhava Kunjabi Hadi Gopi Jana Balabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Balabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Balabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Balabha Girivardhari Jasodanandana Brajajanarandana Jasodanandana Brajajanarandana Brajajanadan Jamuna Tiravana Jadi Jamuna Tiravana Jadi Tiravana Jaya Jamadava Kunjabi Hadi Madhava Kunjabi Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hadi Madhava Kunjabi Hadi Jayo Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivajagacharya Astatara Sri Srimad Divine Grace Sri Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda Ki Gaur Premanandi. It's focused? Is that the best you're going to get? Doesn't look so focused. That's a little better. Oh. Mother Yasoda and baby Krishna. We're nearing completion of a wonderful section of Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 6, which is the story of Putana being delivered by little Krishna. Of course, Krishna's a little older here, and then the Putana pastime. The Putana pastime is when Krishna is 6 days old, very tiny, and we've gotten so far as text 35. It's almost the end of the chapter, and Putana's been her life air and the poison were drawn from her. She screamed in pain, went flying from the house, expanded her body into really big form, 12 miles long. She fell in a grove of trees that turned out to be not part of Nanda Maharaj's kingdom, but King Kamsa's little place. The elder gopis, because this is a focus on their love for Krishna, they did all kinds of rituals for protection and purification of Krishna. They placed the child after this on the lap of Mother Jasoda, who had fainted, and she was still in a state of shock. But seeing Krishna in her lap, she gained her normal faculties somewhat. She fed Krishna. Krishna fell asleep. Krishna was placed on a bed. That was like the sign that he's okay now. Nanda Maharaj returned because the end of the previous chapter 5, Nanda had gone to Mathura to pay taxes to the king. And just before he left, the evening before he left, Vasudeva, his close relative and dear friend, advised him, you better get back to Gokula because there's going to be some difficulties. He didn't say what the difficulties were, and Nanda was in a lot of anxiety about what might happen, particularly for his son Krishna and Balaram. When he returned, he saw this gigantic body, Putana's 12-mile-long body, lying there. Heard what happened. He was told what happened. The residents of Vrindavan were doing what is to be done when a poisonous entity like a snake, I didn't know this, but snakes, when they're killed, may be able to come back into that same snake body, so you have to burn the snake body. It's one of the rules of killing snakes, I guess. So they also wanted to do the same thing with Putana, so they chopped with an axe, they chopped the limbs of Putana into pieces, 12-mile-long body, pieces of wood, piled it up and burned, and it smelled like very fragrant Aguru incense, better than whatever it is that you're burning here. It's like super incense. Super incense. And everyone was astonished. So a major part of the pastime was not the killing of Putana. According to the acharyas, that's incidental. The main part of the pastime is stimulating the love of the residents, the Krishna's eternal associates, doing things that would stimulate their love and give them a special opportunity of loving exchange with him. So that's what he was doing. Now this 2 verses, we're just going to be discussing 2 verses this evening, where the destination of Putana is spoken about. Putana was always hankering for the blood of human children. She didn't just kill them. She was a Rakshasi. She ate them, little babies. Not a nice lady. And with that desire, she came to kill Krishna, but because she offered her breast to the Lord, she attained the greatest achievement. What then is to be said of those who had natural devotion and affection for Krishna as mothers, and who offered him their breast to suck, or offered something very dear as a mother offers something to a child? That's not directly spoken about, but we'll hear. This is in reference to a pastime that happens a little bit later in chapter 13. This is chapter 6. In chapter 13, it's what happened during that 1 year, just after the Brahma Vimohan Lila. Brahma stole the calves and cowherd boys and put them into caves. This is when Krishna was 5 years old instead of 6 days old. So later, for 1 year, Krishna had manifested himself as identical forms of the boys, his friends, and identical forms of the calves, because the cows, the mothers of the calves, desired to have Krishna as their calf. They wanted to serve him in that way, so he fulfilled their desire. And the mothers wanted to have Krishna as their son, so he became their son directly for 1 year, and they fed him. So that's what's this second half, or text 36, is who what is referring to. It doesn't mention them in particular. He also does say she attained the greatest achievement. That means she went to Goloka. Tomorrow morning, we're going to hear very specifically. Well, Brahma says in his prayers in chapter 14, that Putana achieved the spiritual world. She didn't just go to Vaikuntha. She went to the same place that Mother Jasoda went to, or eternally resides in. That's Goloka Vrindavan or Krishna Loka. She, Putana, attained the greatest achievement. She became Mother Jasoda's assistant, like a nurse, in Goloka Vrindavan. Then what to speak, which means what to speak is, so up here is Mother Jasoda, down here is Putana, and in between is the mothers that Krishna served as when he was just 5 years old, as, 5 years old, offering their breast milk to Krishna. So they achieved something higher than Putin achieved. We're going to hear some more detail tomorrow morning. And Mother Jasoda is the topmost position in the spiritual world, Krishna Loka. I hope you're following all this. Yeah, okay, good. And now we're going to hear some commentary by our acharyas. Start with Jiva Goswami. Do you need a little background? Who is Jiva Goswami and Sanatan Goswami? Do you know who they are? You know who is Lord Chaitanya? Okay. Lord Chaitanya's chief associates, he had many, many loving devotees. Principal amongst them were 6, called the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan. Many altars in homes, almost all altars in homes. You'll see there's 6 men standing in loincloths. Often there's Govardhan Hill behind them, because they were all from very elevated, exalted, highly educated, well-placed persons who left all that to go live in Vrindavan as mendicants. Under Lord Chaitanya's instructions, he taught them the science of bhakti, and they were also instructed to write books. So the ones that we're going to read from are from those 6 Goswamis. One of them was Jiva Goswami, one of my heroes in Krishna consciousness. You'll see why. He wrote 3 commentaries on Srimad Bhagavatam. And the 4th one is just like the pastimes of Krishna in Vrindavan, told in narrative style. Not exactly commentary. It's really sweet. So this is from one of those. This is Jiva Goswami commenting on these 2 verses. By species, Putana was a Rakshasi, but she was also a killer of children, as well as a drinker of blood. She offered her breast to Hari, who had the intention of taking away Harati, her faults. What to speak of giving with external hatred to Paramatma, who gives general benefit by giving power of knowledge and action to almost dead internal and external senses, and of giving to Krishna, who naturally attracts all hearts to himself by revelation of his ocean of qualities. It's a long sentence. Even a limited amount of his qualities give benefit to persons like Putana. She attained Krishna, the goal of the devotees, and she's not a devotee. Paragraph. What more will happen if one offers with faith? That's that second half. Putana got this. What to speak of those who offer with faith? And what more will happen if one offers with bhakti or devotion? The word priyatamam also indicates degrees. That's in the Sanskrit of those 2 verses. Priya, uttama, the topmost of those who are dear. Also indicates degrees. What more will happen if one offers with affection something dear to Krishna? If one offers with great affection, what is dearer? And if one offers with the highest affection, what is dearest? And what to speak of the results for those whose very life is Krishna, who are only happy with his happiness? That is the intention of saying in these verses, Kim punaha, and then Kim nu. Then what to speak of giving as a mother? The position of mother is established as supreme. The example of gopis in Madhurya Rasa is not given because mothers show the greatest attraction to their children at the time of feeding them. What's that? The Bhagavatam and the teachings of Lord Chaitanya indicate that the topmost of the loving moods is found in Vrindavan, and within Vrindavan, the topmost of loving moods is found amongst the gopis, the Madhurya Rasa gopis. But the Madhurya Rasa gopis don't have the same affection as those who are Mother Yasoda or her peers that have this happiness and satisfaction of breastfeeding the small baby child. So it's at this stage, it's chapter 6, he's still just 6 days old. So there's no conjugal, there's no Madhurya Rasa going on. It's just speaking about them. The very, 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 very special position they have in love for Krishna, and how Krishna reciprocates with their love for him. So Sanatana Goswami was one of the 6 Goswamis. He was the eldest And, in Vedic culture, the elder member is given special respect, like a father or a spiritual master or guru amongst them. Sanatana Goswami. He writes, Putana attained the highest goal, Sad Gatim, or the goal like the devotees and those desiring liberation. So she's not a devotee. It's quite the opposite. She's a demon. But she attained that which the devotees attain. And she attained what those who are seeking liberation attain. And she wasn't seeking liberation. She was seeking to kill Krishna. She gained a goal similar to the devotees by destruction of suffering, birth and death after liberation. She attained this because she offered her breast to Krishna. By species, she was a Rakshasi. But she was also a killer of children, as well as a drinker of blood. She offered her breast to Hari, who had the intention of taking away her faults. Paragraph, then more this comparative and superlative. What can be said then of those who offer the best objects with bhakti, shraddhaya, and with prema, bhaktya, to he who is dearer than one's own self, paramatmane, to he who is the dearest to the self, Krishnaha. They attained pure bhakti, like his mother. What else can be said? Just as offering the best with faith, shraddhaya, and respect, bhaktya, one attains the highest goal, affectionate mothers attain the same goal. Or, just as attached persons attain the goal, mothers attain the goal. Now here's another text altogether. You all know who is Lord Chaitanya. So there are two very substantial, principal, well-known biographies of Lord Chaitanya's life. One Srila Prabhupada translated called Chaitanya Charitamrita. Chaitanya Charitamrita. It's very wonderful literature. However, another literature all about Lord Chaitanya's life is Chaitanya Bhagavat. And there's a section where it makes reference to the Putana pastime in Chaitanya Bhagavat. And that Chaitanya Bhagavat section, the verse that's being spoken is a verse that Uddhava spoke to Vidura. A little background. In the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, there's a whole chapter on Dhritarashtra being delivered from his attached mad position by his younger brother, Vidura. Vidura had gone on pilgrimage. He was insulted by Duryodhana and he left. When he left, he went on extended pilgrimage for 34 years. That's a long pilgrimage. And one of the places he went to, he came across Maitreya in the forest. No, he came across Uddhava. Uddhava is Krishna's dearmost associate in Dwarka. They were about the same age. They even looked alike. They were inseparable. They were very, very close. And Uddhava was a great devotee. Just before Krishna left, we're going to read about this tomorrow. Just before Krishna left this world, Uddhava had a sense. He knew intuitively Krishna's going to leave. Krishna didn't say anything. He just knew him so well. So he went crying. He fell at his feet. Take me with you. And Krishna instructed him in detail. So there's a really long section in the 11th canto Bhagavatam, similar to Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna is instructing Arjuna, his dear friend. Krishna is instructing Uddhava, his dear friend. In the Bhagavatam, it really elevated topics, very important topics. And then Krishna departed. Or he told Uddhava, you should leave. One of the places I didn't go during my appearance in this world is to the ashram of Narayana Rishi in Badrik Ashram. So I want you to be my messenger. You carry everything that I explained to you to them. This way you can give my association as my representative. So please go. Uddhava was smashed because Krishna was his life and soul. And Krishna left. There's more details in between, but Krishna left. So Uddhava's maintaining his life just by fulfilling the instruction that Krishna had given him to take his teachings and give them to the Narayana Rishi and the associates in Badrik Ashram. So he's on his way from Dwarka. And who should he meet but Vidura in the Vrindavan forest? Like needle in a haystack. And he, Uddhava, how nice to see you. And then naturally you see Uddhava, you think of Krishna. So he started asking, how's Krishna? And Balaram and Ugrasena and Devaki and Nanda and Vasudeva and Devaki, and how's everybody? Naming names and describing things he felt towards them and knew about them. And when he stops, Uddhava goes into a trance because he just was asked to describe Krishna. And his level of Krishna consciousness is such, he just entered a state of samadhi, just hearing this question and being absorbed in thought of Krishna. It says he went to Krishna in his spiritual identity. But he struggled because he had respect for the elder Vidura and wanted to reciprocate with him by describing. So one of the first verses he spoke was what's quoted in Chaitanya Bhagavat. The Sanskrit starts, this isn't the verse. Agha baka putanare ye kaila mochana. Worship of the lotus feet of Nanda Nandana, who delivered Agasura, Bakasura, and Putana. The deliverance of Agasura is described by Shukadeva Goswami to Maharaj Parikshit in the 12th chapter of Canto 10 as follows, quote, Krishna is the cause of all causes. Now this is a verse in the Bhagavatam, spoken by Shukadeva. Krishna is the cause of all causes. The causes and effects of the material world, both higher and lower, are all created by the Supreme Lord, the original controller. When Krishna appeared as the son of Nanda, Maharaj, and Yashoda, he did so by his causeless mercy. Consequently, for him to exhibit his unlimited opulence was not at all wonderful. Indeed, he showed such great mercy that even Agasura, the most sinful miscreant, was elevated to being one of his associates and achieving Sarupya Mukti, which is actually impossible for materially contaminated persons to attain. If even only once or even by force, one brings the form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead into one's mind, one can attain the supreme salvation by the mercy of Krishna, as did Agasura. What then is to be said, same comparative. If Agasura can get this destination, what then is to be said of those whose hearts the Supreme Personality of Godhead enters when he appears as an incarnation? Or those who always think of the lotus feet of the Lord, who is the source of transcendental bliss for all living entities, and by whom all illusion is completely removed. It's not only Putana that achieved a position in the spiritual world. Agasura achieved a position in the spiritual world. Agasura was a giant serpent, same 12 miles long, same as his sister. Agasura and Putana were brother and sister, by the way. So Putana was killed first, and Agasura later, chapter 12. But Shukadeva Goswami is confirming Agasura not only was freed from sin, not only he didn't just attain heaven or something like that, or a nice next birth. He achieved liberation. But amongst the forms of liberation, it wasn't just merging into the effulgence of the Lord. He ultimately attained a four-armed form like Lord Narayana in Vaikuntha. And how rare is it for anyone who's doing any elevated spiritual activity to achieve that? It's special mercy. And we've been using this example. It's like getting an honorary degree from Oxford University. You don't go to school. I mean, they do that from time to time. Big universities give honorary degrees to people that aren't really smart. Whatever their criterion, it's not the same as all the things that you normally have to do to get a degree from some prestigious university. So what to speak of liberation? What to speak of attaining a form like the Lord? Then the comparison is then what to speak of those who simply dedicate themselves exclusively. What's to happen with those? That's Shukadeva Goswami speaking. The deliverance of Putana, the sister of Bakasura and Agasura. By the way, there were two brothers and a sister. Bakasura was the Baka demon, the crane or stork, big beak, giant thing. Bakasura also achieved the same thing. The deliverance of Putana, the sister of Bakasura, is described by Shukadeva Goswami to Maharaj Parikshit in these verses that we just read. Putana was always hankering for the blood of human children, and with that desire she came to kill Krishna. But because she offered her breast to the Lord, she attained the greatest achievement. Because Krishna embraced Putana's body with great pleasure and sucked her breast, although she was a great witch, she attained the position of a mother in the transcendental world. That's in the next verses coming just after this. This just says she attained something very special. The next verse says, what was that special? She attained the position of a mother in the transcendental world, and thus achieved the highest perfection. What then is to be said of the cows whose nipples Krishna sucked with great pleasure, and who offered their milk very jubilantly with affection, exactly like that of a mother? paragraph. The first line of this verse, this is back to Chaitanya Bhagavat. The first line of this verse refers to the Lord, who awarded the supreme destination to those who are killed by him. This is confirmed in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. That's a writing of another one of the 6 Goswamis, Rupa. Sanatan and Rupa Goswamis were brothers, and Jiva was their nephew, their brother's son. Their brother had died. His young son, Jiva, also lived in Vrindavan and became one of the 6 Goswamis. Very important person. So he writes, Rupa Goswami writes in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, "O Krishna, whose head is decorated with a peacock feather, although you award the pavargas to your enemies, you ultimately award them apavarga, or liberation." Pavarga, it's a Sanskrit rule. Pa-pa-ba-ba-ma. The pavargas. They get defeat, foaming of the mouth, bondage, fearfulness, and death. Material rewards. But they get liberation. Apavarga. Rupa Goswami writes that. For a description of Krishna's killing of Bakasura and Agasura, he gives the references that one should read from the Bhagavatam. And finally, I think it's finally, there's a description about this concluding section of the Putana pastime found in Brihat Bhagavatamrita. So a little background. Sanatana Goswami, along with commentary on each of the verses of Srimad Bhagavatam, every verse of the Bhagavatam, commentary. Another book that he wrote was an explanation of Srimad Bhagavatam in a story form called Brihat Bhagavat Amrita. Brihat Bhagavatamrita. So this is a reference by Sanatana Goswami to what we're reading here. The verse reads, "The Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna is the bestower of many benedictions, including liberation or oneness with the Brahman effulgence. For that son of Devaki, the gopis always felt maternal love." That's the elder gopis. "They looked at him as if he was their own son, and Krishna, with full satisfaction, sucked the milk that by maternal affection flowed freely from their breasts. Therefore, one should never think that after leaving their bodies they return to material existence, which arises as a result of ignorance." Commentary. Parikshit is now coming to the point of glorifying Krishna's supermost devotees. So it's a discussion. Parikshit is the speaker at this point. Parikshit is now coming to the point of glorifying Krishna's supermost devotees, the young gopis. But first, he takes the opportunity to praise the elder gopis, the mothers of Krishna's cowherd friends. While narrating the history of Putana's attempt to kill Krishna, Shukadev spoke these 2 verses, which come after the ones that we're reading just now, comparing Putana's good fortune to that of these elder gopis from whose breast Krishna drank when he assumed the forms of his friends after Lord Brahma had kidnapped the friends and calves. We mentioned this earlier. Lord Brahma came to Vrindavan to visit Krishna, and he saw the killing of the Agasura demon. He went, wow. And he had this moment of wondering what's the limit of Krishna's mystic powers? I have mystic powers. Let me exhibit some of my mystic powers and see what Krishna does. It was a bad idea, but that's what he did. So he took the calves and cowherd boys, put them in a cave, and Krishna manifested the calves and cowherd boys, identical with the calves and cowherd boys in the cave. So Brahma went back to the cave, and they were in the cave. Then he went back, and they were sitting having lunch with Krishna. And then Krishna showed simultaneously the calves and cowherd boys and as many forms of Narayan, all being worshipped by all of their potencies and the personified Vedas and this and that, and a big ruckus of sound and commotion, and then simultaneously all of the universes, and then poof, they all disappeared. Brahma fainted, and he offered his prayers. So in that period of time that Brahma had gone to see if they were in the cave, it was just a short period of time, Brahma's time, but on earth a whole year passed. So during that whole year, Krishna had manifested himself as calves and cowherd boys. And the mothers of his friends thought, this is my son. And they were feeding them with great affection, like they had affection for Krishna. And Krishna was happy to receive their affection. So they are very special people. That's what this verse is that we just read. And it's coming up after this, so we'll be discussing it again. The son of Devaki drank the breast milk of these gopis plentifully because he took the role of their sons for an entire year. He bestowed this favor on them even though he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, complete and self-satisfied in all respects. Because of the motherly relationship these gopis had with him, they were freed from the prospect of future suffering in the cycle of birth and death, semicolon. Their material existence was finished once and for all in that very lifetime. Conditioned living beings are trapped in samsara due to their ignorance, but the elder gopis were steeped in the highest spiritual knowledge. They were the most perfect jnanis because they constantly thought of Krishna as their son. Indeed, all transcendental knowledge and its corollary benefits are automatically included in pure Krishna consciousness. Other devotees might feed Krishna without identifying him as their son. But these women had already attained such high realization of love of Godhead that they thought of Krishna with intense parental affection. They loved Krishna so much that milk would spontaneously flow from their breasts. Paragraph. Krishna is the giver of liberation and all other goals of life. But, as the word alam indicates, this alam means plentiful. The gopis were giving plentiful alam, milk. This word alam implies Krishna, not satisfied with the milk of his mother Devaki, was eager to drink milk from the gopis also. He had every right to the breast milk of Devaki, but he abandoned her to drink extensively from these gopis instead. His love for them was that great. Therefore, since he gives desired goals like liberation to other persons, why shouldn't he grant liberation to these women, whom he favored over his own mother by drinking their milk for one whole year? How could they remain entangled in material existence? Now, why this seeming partiality is Vasudeva and Devaki had a mix of majesty. They offered prayers, very, very clear prayers, honoring Krishna as the personality of Godhead, etc. And then assumed a childlike form. So they had a mix of parental affection and majesty. But in Vrindavan, they don't have any majesty. Their love is so intense and so pure that they don't see his divinity. They just see a little boy. Krishna likes. So Krishna accepted their love, even more so than Devaki's. That's the point. So what's their destination? No question. Putana was always hankering for the blood of human children. And with that desire, she came to kill Krishna. This verse is being quoted. But because she offered her breast to the Lord, she attained the greatest achievement. What then is to be said of these ladies, gopis, who had natural devotion and affection for Krishna as mothers, and who offered him their breasts to suck, or offered something very dear, as mothers offer something to a child? And then 2 verses later, although Putana was a great witch, she attained the position of a mother in the transcendental world, and thus achieved the highest perfection. What then is to be said of the cows, whose nipples Krishna sucked with great pleasure, and who offered their milk very jubilantly with affection, exactly like that of a mother? Paragraph. Putana attained a destination possible only for saintly devotees of the personality of Godhead. She became a mother of Krishna, like Devaki, in the highest heaven, Sri Vaikuntha. Swarga, because the word Swarga is mentioned in this verse. Swarga, or heaven, is commonly conceived of as the world of unlimited happiness, but true happiness, freedom from birth and death, is found only in the kingdom of God. There Putana achieved liberation and established in Vatsalya Rasa, parental affection. So how can the elder gopis of Braja be expected to attain anything else? The word samsara, sam-sara, may be taken to refer liberation, to liberation as the complete essence of the 4 goals of life. The 4 goals of life: dharma, artha, kama, moksha. You familiar? Dharma, artha, kama, moksha. 4 attainments. And this liberation may be understood to be jnana sambhava. Jnana sambhava, indicating that it is achieved by the discipline of philosophical knowledge. But these gopis deserve more than this inadequate reward. For these gopis, liberation is inadequate because they possess pure devotion for Krishna, which includes knowledge, liberation, and everything else desirable. Liberation, therefore, is meaningless for the gopis because they're already liberated. Paragraph. To devotees unconditionally surrendered to him, Krishna never gives mere liberation, and from devotees full of material desires, he withholds it. Thus, Shukadeva Goswami calls Krishna Kaivalyadi Adilartada, he who destroys all the inferior goals of life, arthas, headed by liberation, kaivalya, which in comparison to attainment of Sri Vaikuntha are insignificant. What this is saying is dharma, artha, kama, and up to the pinnacle of moksha, they're all insignificant compared to prema, attainment of eternal service in the spiritual world. Since Krishna is so kind even to materialistic devotees, why should he give mere liberation to absolutely selfish devotees like the gopis? The great achievement, even for the residents of Vaikuntha, is attainment of Goloka. And he quotes Vritrasura Vritrasura. It's a 6th canto, long story, so I don't need to give some background. Very quickly, he was a king. He learned a hard lesson of material attachment. He went with the assistance of Narada. He went on the path of bhakti. He achieved in the same lifetime a heavenly planet. King of Vidyadhara Loka. He was cursed by misunderstanding by Parvati when he went to visit his friend. That's how elevated he was. Lord Shiva was his friend. Parvati misunderstood his words, cursed him to become a demon. He became a demon. And then went back to Godhead. So Vritra is that person. Vritra says, our Lord, who is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Vritra speaking to Indra, saying, our Lord. Our Lord forbids his devotees to endeavor uselessly for religion, economic development, and sense gratification. O Indra, one can thus infer how kind the Lord is. Such mercy is obtainable only by unalloyed devotees, not by persons who aspire for material gains. Because these efforts for these 4, Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha, can achieve little more than the pain of the endeavor, the supreme protector of his devotees ruins devotees' attempts to achieve these goals. This should be understood as the greatest mercy of the all-compassionate Lord. It goes on explaining this special kindness that Krishna has by taking away material aspiration or even negation of material involvement by the impersonal liberation. That's not so wonderful. What's wonderful is awakening love. And that's what's being described here. It continues on for a few pages, very, very, very detailed. The emphasis is going to bhakti. Bhakti is superlative. Sometimes Prabhupada spoke of it as the 5th goal. There's the 4, and then there's beyond the 4. We're attaining a mature stage of association with Krishna eternally. And this little section ends with this statement: paying respects to Yashoda from a distance, having put her in the highest position, I will write no more, because it is beyond words. Now, the image here, of course, is when Krishna is a little older, the Damodar Lila. But the position of Mother Yashoda as mother is very special. We understand from Scripture, she's eternally Mother Yashoda. It's not like a post and somebody can become Mother Yashoda. One can become an assistant or have loving affection like her and assist her in her services, but she's an eternal manifestation of Krishna's relationship as mother to son. Now, obviously, the source of everything doesn't have a mother. So how do we say mother if Krishna is the source of everything? From the source of everything comes everything. And from the source of everything comes all varieties, in the spiritual realm, all varieties of loving exchange. And motherly affection is one of those varieties of loving exchange. So she's the manifestation of that. And he enjoys her love and her affection, we were just hearing, even more than his mother Devaki, who gave birth to Krishna in the prison house of Kamsa. And that's a whole long description, but we just touched on it before. Devaki and Vasudeva, they don't have the same mood as the residents of Vrindavan. They mentioned. They understand Krishna as the personality of Godhead. They underwent austerities to achieve Krishna as their son. Mother Yasoda and Nanda, they didn't offer any prayers. They didn't undergo any austerities in the worldly sense of austerities. They just have natural love for Krishna. They didn't do something to attain that. They're eternally in that position. And the teaching of the Bhagavatam, the teaching of Lord Chaitanya, is we can also attain that kind of love, but it's by becoming followers of those who have that eternal position of love. It's it's not a secret teaching, it's not an esoteric teaching, it's just very subtle. We become perfect by following the perfect. And there's eternally perfected souls. She's one, in the role of mother. And then there's friends, in the role of friends. And then there's young gopis, in the mood of young gopis. And there's all varieties in all of those categories. And there's servants in Vrindavan and outside Vrindavan. All of these relationships exist. In relation to Krishna, all of these relationships exist. But they're so strong in Vrindavan, no one sees him as in the divinity part, although it's always there within him. It's really nice. It's a nice teaching. Love of God is a nice teaching. Before coming here to this area, I was in New Jersey, and the devotee whose home I was staying was working from home, and it wasn't a Thanksgiving holiday, it was like regular work days. So he was having these business calls, and they have a relationship. So he asked, what's going on? He said, oh, my teacher is here. Oh, can I meet him? So virtually, they had a Zoom call. So he brought his little laptop, and there's his teacher on the other side of the Zoom call. And he said, hey, how's it going? Everything great. How about you? Everything great. Okay, good. What you doing? That's what he asked. He said, I'm conducting a seminar, and he said, oh, great. What's the seminar about? So he said, the seminar this was the Damodar Lila. I'm just concluding the Damodar Lila. I said, I'm teaching this wonderful teaching that says, all you need is love. Said that the supreme loving object is captured by the love of those who love him. And he loves those who love him. And all you need is love. He said, great. Maybe you'll listen to some of your classes. I said, okay. Back to work now. But it's, you could say, the kingdom of God is the kingdom of love. No, but it's not just a euphemism. It's, the peace and love and flower children generation was the generation that I grew up with. And, they really didn't know what love was, and they really didn't know what peace was. They really didn't know what a lot of things were. They were searching, but, without proper guidance, you're going to end up with something other than what the real thing is. So how do you get the real thing? The Vedas are meant to reveal the real thing. The that which is the source of everything, and obviously the source of everything includes everything. And then there's this superlative feature of everything, and Vrindavan is that superlative feature. The superlative mother and the prototype perfect mother, prototype perfect friend, etc., etc. And becoming followers of such persons is how to enter into that kingdom of love, or the eternal association of Krishna. And the Bhagavatam says it specifically. To come to the kind of quality of love that Mother Yasoda has, one has to become a follower of Mother Yasoda or the other residents of Vrindavan. Now one can become elevated and, etc., sadhu and filled with enlightenment and knowledge and very wise, and all of those things are wonderful. However, the superlative is the situation in Vrindavan, and all like the saying goes, all roads lead to Rome. If you're part of the Roman Empire, all roads lead to Rome. And if you're connected to Krishna, all roads lead to Vraja. Krishna had residence in other places. The two principal places were Mathura and certainly in Dwarka. But between Mathura and Dwarka and Vrindavan, Vrindavan is the superlative. That's what we're hearing again and again. It's very attractive. So that's it for this evening. I'm purposely not trying to cover too much because the topics are really nice. So we'll finish when we finish. I'm not even sure I'm going to finish while I'm still here. I think so, but I don't want to hurry it. It's very sweet. See if there's some discussion. Now, what we've been doing is people that are in the room, if they wish, we'll prod you a little bit and encourage you to, anything at all that you'd like to hear some discussion about. And that gives time for the people online to send in their chat box questions.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
So actually, we discussed about pastimes of Krishna with Putana. So, we discussed that if devotee with full heart, with full love, dedicate upon Krishna and pray to him, then he will definitely attain the Godhead, or he will definitely go back to Godhead. So I was just wondering, if some devotee obeys all the principles of devotional service and chants Hare Krishna and do all the service, but at the time of death, if he not only remembers Krishna but also his family members and some of the material things, then what would happen to him?
It depends on Krishna. It's not like there's a hard and fast rule about the bell rings and you go back to Godhead. There's a principle that's discussed in Bhagavad Gita. Yam yam bhavi smaran bhavam. Smaran, remembrance. Whatever the mind is fixed on, you'll achieve that. So whatever you're fixed on, your question is supposing it's a mix. I'm doing things that I'm supposed to do. Spiritual things, not just worldly mode of goodness things, but spiritual things. At the same time, I have some affinity for an attachment to the temporary. So there's a mix. And Krishna can just overlook the mix. Or Krishna can do something else. Krishna can give that person the opportunity to be to achieve spiritual perfection, squeaky clean, 100%. It's in Krishna's hand. So just a little detail. Doing things has a purpose. Doing things, the spiritual things, has a purpose. The purpose is to become attached. Like, a mother doesn't have to go to mother school to become attached. Mothers are attached to their child. Natural. So similarly, there's a natural attachment for Krishna. It's of the soul. But when the soul is covered, then there's a mix. And as long as there's a mix, then there's still some affinity for the temporary. Just like us, any one of us in this room. So there's something and there's something. There's a mix. Now, I'm a sannyasi, but it doesn't mean that there's no, because I'm not married and don't have children, family, and a job and a bank balance, and a house and car and pay taxes and all the things that people do. I'm a liberated soul. It doesn't mean that. The attachments can be other things to the temporary of one kind or another. So the price is not just doing good things. The price is where your attachment is. The nice verse, you can look it up later. I encourage you to look it up later. 7.1 Bhagavad Gita. Maya asakta mana. Asakti means attachment. Mana is mind. And Mai asakta mana. Krishna says, I'm going to explain to you, Arjuna, how to have the mind attached to me. So mind attached to Krishna means not just a mix, it's mind attached to Krishna. Now, mind attached to Krishna without a mix doesn't mean, the heck with my husband or my child or, the world or my parents, or, the heck with it. That's not what it means. It's not negation. It's where your attachment goes. And where your attachment goes, those things have their place in relation to where your attachment is. So back to your question. It depends. Krishna certainly will recognize, here's a person they've done, but their attachment isn't yet with me fully. So let me give them another chance to become fully attached to me. Or let me just invite them into the association of the perfected souls. That's an option that Krishna sometimes does like that. I'll give you a little example. Here's a little example. It's a little subtle, but when Krishna reached the age of he was still very young, but he had early child development. He left Vrindavan before he was 12 years old. He was 11 years, 8 months. And the period of time when he was doing rasa dance, I mean, think of somebody that's 11 years old. What do they know about anything? Boy-girl stuff. But he was engaged in rasa dance, and when he called the gopis with his flute song, his flute is very special, they were forcibly pulled. And some of them were the Nitya Siddha gopis, some were Sadhana Siddha gopis, and some weren't fully Siddha yet. They were checked by their husbands. They couldn't come. But eventually, because of their eagerness to be with Krishna, not like competition with the other girls, but their eagerness to be with Krishna was made perfect by the association with the perfect. So that's a possibility. It's very customized, very individual, very personal. And Krishna is all-knowing, and he's all-loving, so he'll do what's best for us You could say, well, if he's doing what's best for us, he'll take us to him. But we have to be qualified. Unless he just decides to give us an honorary degree. Here's your Oxford University diploma. He can do that. But the criterion is Maya Sakta Manakparta. 7.1 Bhagavad Gita. And how does that happen? Yogam Yunjad Madashraya. Madashraya, by taking shelter of him or those who have taken shelter of him. Madashraya. And we practice making that connection. Yogam Yunjan Madashraya. That's the process. So back to your question. One may be following the process on the external, but not fully on the internal. That's most of us. Sadhakas, we're practicing, but the internal isn't there yet. The outside can be really good, but the inside takes some cleansing. And Krishna will help us. He knows. No secrets with Krishna. He knows. And he wants, but he does. He encourages, but he doesn't interfere. So, at the time of death, what are we attached to? That's what we're going to think of. And if it's mixed, then it's mixed, generally. But there's varieties of how mixed and so many other considerations.
Maharaj, I also have one more question. So yesterday I was reading some verses from Bhagavatam, Shri Bhishma Pitamaha's teachings.
Who's?
Bhishma Pitamaha.
Bhishma Dev, Pitamaha. Okay. You can take the mask down because that'll make it easier because I can't hear your voice so well. Thanks. Now.
So I came across some of the concepts like the Brahma Jyoti. Mm-hmm. So I read about it, like some of the saintly persons, they chant and they pray to Brahma Jyoti or the light of Krishna, but they do not attain or they cannot go back to Godhead.
Yes.
So my question is, like, Brahma Jyoti is also light of Krishna. Yeah. So it is a form of Krishna. Yes. But if we meditate upon Brahma Jyoti, then why don't we attain God?
Okay, nice question. The Brahma Jyoti is not exactly a form of Krishna, although you can say it's a form of Krishna, but more specifically it's an aspect or a feature of the Absolute. And Krishna is absolute, and there's his light. So, supposing you walk out in the sunlight, nice sunny day. Tomorrow's supposed to be partly sunny, and Wednesday is supposed to be really sunny all day long. So, nice sunny day. You're in the sun. You may or may not see the sun globe, but you're not likely to see the sun god. So there's these three aspects of the Absolute. The Brahma Jyoti, that's the all-pervasive feature. Then there's the Lord of the Heart, the localized feature. And then there's a third, the personal feature. So to go back to Godhead, there must be connection with and awareness of and affection for the personal feature. So you can go into the sunlight, or you can go into the Brahma Jyoti, but it's not the same as going back to Godhead. Not the same as meeting the sun god and having a relationship with him and finding out what it is that he wants and doing the things that he wants while you're in the sunlight. You're still in the sunlight when you're with the sun god, but you have some service and loving exchange. That's what going back to Godhead means. It's incomplete. It's still absolute. It's nothing wrong, but it's not complete. Therefore, the encouragement is go the whole way. Go to the complete, because that's really what we want. We want loving exchange. It's our nature. There's nothing wrong with loving exchange. It's our nature. Make it complete. That's the encouragement. Okay.
So just one more question.
Sure, no problem.
So is this the only way to attain God, like through bhakti or through loving nature? So there is no way to attain God besides that, like praying to Brahma Jyoti or...
What are some of the other options you're thinking about? Demigods, did you say?
Yeah, so what I was thinking is, like, there are posts like Indradev or some Brahmadev or some other posts.
Okay.
So if someone meditate and if someone goes to that post, then like can they become or they can they go back to Godhead?
But they have to stay there for some time, and there's no guarantee. But yes, they can. Yes, they can. Supposing, I'm in Bombay and I get on a train to go to Delhi. I may get off somewhere and spend some time in that someplace and think, oh, that was very interesting. Now I have to get back on the train and go to Delhi. It's the journey is not complete. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna makes this very specific recommendation, because you mentioned Brahma. Abrahma bhuvana loka purnar abartanorchana. He recommends Arjuna, don't aspire for even the planet of Brahmaloka. So heaven is down here, Brahmaloka is way up there. Don't aspire for it. Why? Because therein birth and death take place. Even in Brahmaloka, long duration, longer than heaven, longer than anything. And then it's over. Whatever that attainment is, kaput. So that's not the goal, is to have a long lifetime and great opulence and knowledge and beauty and all those lovely things. The goal is eternal life. Not just eternal, the Brahma Jyoti, but eternal life, loving relations in the spiritual realm, with all variety of everything. So it's possible, more than possible. It's part of the Vedic teaching. One can achieve those places. There's procedures and teachings and methods how to achieve those places. But the Bhagavad Gita is very clear. Don't. Why not? It's nice. It's good. It's like really good people there. They don't have to do the bad things they do here. Have nice friends. Be happy. Birth and death. It's not really what the goal is. It's beyond birth and death. Purnar janma na. Mameti. Come to me.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Yes, we have something over here.
So Maharaj, just maybe this is a stupid question, but so Krishna liberates his enemies.
Krishna does what?
Liberates his enemies.
Well, yes, he does.
And then he liberates his bhaktas also.
Yes.
So what happens to people who are neither?
So why not be a demon and get liberated, huh?
Yeah, so I mean that also, and what happens to people who are neither enemies nor bhaktas?
Oh.
Like maybe atheists or like,
Purnar janma, that's what happened to them. Birth and death. Samsara. That's what happened to them. Because they're attached to something. We're all attached to something. So if you're attached to the temporary, then you stay in the temporary. Birth endlessly. Samsara. It's a Ferris wheel that doesn't stop. It doesn't stop. Like, let me off this Ferris wheel. I want to do some other stuff. No. Endless. So that's just birth and death. And then different species, you don't know where you're going next. There's no guarantee you're going to have a human form.
Right.
So, well, let me experience varieties of forms. Maybe that'd be interesting. So then, sure, you can do that. Somebody can do that. So,
And about the second part that you mentioned, why not be a demon? And
well, two things. Really keeping it simple. Why not just wait for an honorary degree from Oxford University? I mean, it happens, right?
right.
So just sit back and wait for the honorary degree. But that's not standard. Standard is you do other things. And that's standard. It's possible, but the other is it's not desirable. The second is you can be a follower of Putana and Kamsa and Hiranyakashipu and Ravana, or you can be a follower of the personality of Godhead and his eternal associates. And they recommend Anukulyasya Sankalpa Pratikulyasya, accept things that are favorable. Anukul means accept. Anukulyena Krishna Anushilanam. Accept the position of that which is pleasing to Krishna. So we do that because it's pleasing to Krishna. That's love. That's the path of love. It's much better than the path of being a demon and take your chances. Yes. Shankadari?
Krishna Maharaj, just following up on Ketki's, she stated one of the things that is bhakti only the method to go back to Godhead. That's one of, and then she mentioned what are the other options, worshipping demigods and all that. So I wanted to complete that question that she stated, is the bhakti only way to go back to Krishna?
Well, if we let's step back from the rigors of the Vedic texts and to step way back, and it's a principle. So that principle is taught in different forms, in different cultures, at different times, but it's the essence is the principle. It's not the form, it's the essence. So the essence is Rishikena, Rishikesha, Sevanam. Without the designations, Sarva Upadi, without designations. Using my senses in the service of the master of the senses. That means there's sense objects out there. There's a kitchen. So use sense objects in the service of the master of the senses. Using my senses. It's a principle. It's not an ism or a belief system. And you got to do it this way and you can't do it that way kind of ism. It's a principle. And the answer to then, when you go back to the question, yes, that's the means, and there isn't another means. It's not the form; it's the substance or the essence. We have an eternal relationship with Krishna. Someone in some other part of the world, they may call Krishna by some other name, and that's fine, provided it's an authentic name. And the principle is the same principle. Following that principle, that's another thing. Not just give lip service, but follow that same principle. When you were asking your question about doing all the good things, we read this little biographical story of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Prabhupada's spiritual master is Bhaktisiddhanta, his father is Bhaktivinoda. So Bhaktivinoda went with his son, Bhaktisiddhanta, and some others to visit some places of Lord Chaitanya's pastimes. And the place they stayed at night was a temple. And the next day they met some local people and they said, "Oh, really? Where did you stay?" They said, "We stayed at the temple." I said, "Oh, no, that place is haunted. And there's this cruel ghost that throws bricks and anybody that comes around that place after dark." And he said, "Yes, we encountered that fellow, but by chanting of the holy name, he didn't bother us." And then the local people said, "Well, you know who that ghost is? In his previous life, he was the priest of that place. And he used to chant the holy name all the time, incessantly, but he also did lots of sinful things. He was really a bad person." And then Bhaktivinoda said, because this is now just doing the things, he was chanting, but because he was being sinful at the same time, and consistently sinful in the name of purifying himself by chanting, he is an offender to the name. So the phrase, his chanting was lip deep, but not heart deep. So the inference was, Bhaktivinoda's wasn't just lip deep, it was heart deep, and that's where the ghost couldn't do anything. They were protected not just because of doing something, but the consciousness, the pure consciousness behind that doing something. He's eligible. Okay?
Thank you, Maharaj. And just one, just besides, this is from me. So the comment and observation.
Comment, observation.
Yeah, so how we were reading the Putana's position compared to others who are reciprocating with Krishna with love, what is their position? So you mentioned acting in relation to Krishna with faith, with love,
yes,
and different topics.
Yes.
And I was thinking,
we're going to hear about it tomorrow morning too.
And then I was thinking the position of the conditioned souls, that they're just immersed in the miseries of the material world, and some pious souls may be just thinking about doing pious activities, going to heavenly realms.
Yes. There's gradations.
This is the Braja Prema and this Braja Lila is totally, completely different realm.
Yeah, it's
amazing.
You got it.
Amazing.
It's out of sight.
Yeah.
Ad hoc suja.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Okay. Online?
It's from Samskruti. I have a question. I always.
We have a new microphone. Look at that. He's got another toy. Woo, woo, woo.
Loud. It's from Samskruti. I have a question. I always have confusion if Krishna's pastimes happen in other planets and also each planet has Putana. Will all of the Putanas go to Goloka? Can you please explain, Maharaj?
It's not all planets, but it's all universes. And yes, there's Putanas. There's the Putana, according to Bhaktivinoda Thakur, we read it the other day. Somewhere in some universe, Krishna is taking birth. Somewhere in some universe, Krishna's doing this and doing that, lifting Govardhan Hill. Somewhere in some universe, Krishna is liberating Putana. It's not the same soul, just keeps getting really busy over here, and then, okay, I got to run over there, and I got to run over there. It's a pastime, and whether the person being liberated is known as Putana or some other name. It's certainly not the same soul, but it's a pastime of the Lord that's eternally happening in this material world. Nitya Lila. I think that addresses the multiple points.
The next question is from Girivaradhari Prabhu. Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj. Krishna's relationship names such as Radha Madhava, Nanda Nandana, etc. exhibit love of different rasas.
Yes.
If someone dies thinking these names, do they attain Goloka with that relationship with Krishna?
I think it depends on, they'll attain Krishna Loka, but what's the rasa they're going to attain is not necessarily based upon the name that they remember. They'll attain Krishna Loka. Now, this is a very esoteric question, and I don't feel so qualified to answer that kind of esoteric question. But my understanding is they'll attain Krishna, and what their relationship with Krishna is what their relationship with Krishna is.
Next question from Govinda Mohini. Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj. I'm not sure if I heard correctly. In the beginning of the class, you said that the snake body needs to be burned or snake can come back. In the case of Agasura in Krishna book, it says that his body was left to dry up and it became a place of pastimes for cowherd boys.
Yeah.
Is it because his soul merged into the body of Krishna? But in Putana's case, it wasn't so, and that's why her body needed to be burned?
Well, we have some very careful readers in our group. Well, for one thing is, the pastime of Agasura being killed was unknown for a whole year, because it's after the Agasura pastime that Krishna manifested himself as calves and cowherd boys for a whole year. Now, the body of Agasura wasn't even known about in Braja, because they're back in the village. They're out in the pasturing grounds or wherever Agasura was. So what happened after that? It's a good question. And why they didn't chop up the body of Agasura like they chopped up the body of Putana, like one is told to chop up the body of a dead serpent, I don't have the answer to that. And I don't have the answer to how long did the Agasura body lay there in Braja. At some point, it seems like seems like the body would decompose, because the soul has gone, and decomposing bodies don't smell good. So I don't have an answer to that. Sorry.
Next question from Amara. Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj. I have 3 questions. Number 1, in sadhana stage, can a devotee have a particular mood, or a particular mood is revealed to him at higher stages of devotion?
Revealed. We have moods, but the higher mood is something that's revealed as purification comes.
Second question, does Krishna take away material desires and opulences of pure devotees only?
No. Lots of people, their material opulences are taken away, and they're not pure devotees.
Question 3. How does he act in this regard of question 2 with the sadhakas? I think it's already answered.
Already answered.
Yeah. Tharuni Radha, she also has 3 questions. First, my understanding from yesterday afternoon session is that when we sincerely serve Krishna, then he will surely reciprocate beyond our limited imagination, then why is it that one can't just pray to Krishna for Raja Bhakti to reach Raja with the intention to serve? Rather, we need to follow in the footsteps of a Rajavasi to get that position. Is it because Raja Prema is so rare that unless one associates and takes guidance from a Rajavasi, it's not possible to obtain it?
Yes.
Question 2. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says...
It's descending mercy. It's not doership, it's descending mercy. Now, prayer is you're inviting descending mercy. But that, put it in action, and the action is service in their mood. You actually become their servant. That's the eligibility. Is literally become the servant of. Now, in the external form, you're doing Vaidhi Bhakti. In the internal form, you're following those great souls. You're serving those great souls. That's a very special stage of mature bhakti. Don't imitate it, in other words.
Second question. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, I reciprocate according to one's surrender.
Yeah.
But here he bestows mercy beyond comprehension to Putana. So from this, can I understand that Krishna is the supreme autocrat?
Yes.
And he's demonstrating here that his actions are beyond any rule books.
Yes.
Question 3. Srila Prabhupada once remarked that some of my disciples will end up in heaven as they're engaged nicely in devotional service, yet they have material desires at the same time. Guru Maharaj, please, can you explain why won't Krishna take away those material desires of those devotees?
He's trying. We're holding on. He's sending nice prasadam. He's sending nice kirtan. He's sending Prabhupada's books. He's sending deities. He's like tapping on the shoulder. He's like kicking him in the shins. You're holding on. He's trying.
Next question from Shashimukhi Mataji. During Gajendra Moksha pastime, Hari comes and liberates Gajendra. He is the son of Harini. My question is that Harini is a sadhana siddha, and she is in the same level of Devaki. If so, why we say Vishnu liberated Gajendra? Is Hari not Krishna?
A form of Krishna, and ultimately Krishna and not Krishna, meaning Krishna, this original feature of Krishna expands into so many forms. And those so many forms, one can say, they're Krishna also. And one can say they're not the original source of all expansion, so they're not Krishna in fullness. So one can say both. If I've understood her question, I think I got her question. If I missed, she can say something and I missed something.
Next question is from Uttama Bhakta Prabhu. Just curious, ghosts don't have bodies. How do they stick their hands out, pick up bricks, or sit on the chest, etc.? Thank you.
I didn't say it again. She's laughing. I couldn't follow.
Just curious, ghosts don't have bodies. How do they?
They have subtle form. They have subtle bodies. They can throw bricks with their subtle bodies. I mean, ghosts do all kinds of things. They lift things and move things, and it's they have subtle form.
Amara has another question. How does one know it is karmic or Krishna's mercy when Krishna takes away material opulences?
I think it depends on your relationship with Krishna, whether it's karmic or Krishna's kindness.
But she's asking, how do we know? whether it's this or that.
Well, you hook yourself up to a Krishna barometer, a meter, and how Krishna conscious you are. It's going to be karma or Krishna. It's dependent upon, that's how we know. It's dependent upon the degree of Krishna consciousness. That's this or that. Okay. Something over here in the corner. We have a portable microphone.
Maharaj, I was just thinking about Krishna's kindness. Then I keep wondering, how is he able to be so kind? I mean, I don't know how. And similarly with pure devotees, what's making them so kind? Like,
It's their kindness is making them so kind. And Krishna, since he's the reservoir or the ultimate source or fountainhead of everything, then he's the fountainhead of kindness as well. And it's a prominent feature. It's a prominent feature of his makeup. And he's the source of that. So why not?
so when one wants to cultivate kindness, then it's just Krishna consciousness. That's what
You develop qualities like those with whom you associate. So you think of associate with very elevated souls that are very kind, and that's just a spark or little speck of the kindness of Krishna. So through them you get a sense of the unlimitedness of Krishna's kindness, and you associate with Krishna through them. You get Krishna's kindness. It's nice to appreciate it's one of the things that we're doing again and again in reading Krishna's pastimes in the 10th canto. He's Bhaktavatsala. He bends over backwards to be kind to his devotees. Even Putana, what to speak, because she did a little. So what to speak of those that do more than a little? So that has to do with Krishna's kindness. So you go on hearing, serving, associating with those who have that whatever quality that you are attracted to, and gives you a deeper sense of the unlimitedness of Krishna. You develop qualities like that too. That's how it works. We develop qualities like those with whom we associate. That's a rule of nature.
I have one more question.
One more.
When we were hearing about Vritrasura, so it kind of just struck to me that misunderstanding can lead to so much adverse effects, after effects.
Yeah.
To the extent of cursing or getting cursed and things like that. So, what would be like a healthy or favorable disposition or mood when I get to know that I misunderstood somebody?
When you get to know that you've offended somebody.
I misunderstood someone.
You misunderstood somebody.
Yeah. And the other way
it happens all the time.
Yeah.
Sometimes. It happens all the time.
So what, apart from just repenting, what should be my...
You go to the person and say, I think I offended you.
And when it happens the other way around, when I find that I'm getting misunderstood,
you go to let the person know that I'm carrying these feelings that I've offended you. You just, if you're open, then they'll let you know, and if you're not open, then they may not let you know.
Yeah.
So best, we have to be careful about who we're open to, because we can get dumped with people that are very hurtful. So we're thoughtful about who we're open to. But in any this in sadhaka position, if one is in the position of Prahlad Maharaj or Haridas Thakur or something, or Maharaj Ambarish, that you don't have to have that carefulness. But Prabhupada was very careful with his dealings with people. He would step back from people he understood were not to get close to. He wasn't everything. Sometimes he would extend himself to people who had malice in their heart. Sometimes to purify them. So
Thank you.
yeah.
Okay.
Shankadari, and then we're going to end all the way in the back.
Did Devaki, Mother Devaki got a chance to feed Krishna with milk?
Well, there's some explanation, but not the same as these mothers that had the whole year. Correct? Okay.
And I was thinking...
One of these stump the Swami questions. Go ahead.
I was thinking with today's descriptions of our acharyas that mothers as mothers and gopis, the ladies of Vraja has a very special prerogative than others.
You got it. And the reason is because of the kind of love they have. Krishna reciprocates with the kind of love we have, or whatever attitude is. Supposing it's inimical. You want to be my enemy? Okay. Not like, oh yeah, I'll show you. It just, he reciprocates. He's very loving. Okay? More? Okay, Prabhupada ki jai.